Zooey Mama, how's it going, everybody? I'm here today to talk about Cannonball, who is the newest card coming to Marvel Snap on March 19th, and I'm going to help you decide if he is worth buying with your tokens or spotlight caches, or if he's a bit of a bust. I'll also be going over 3 different decks that you can play with him immediately upon release, and just talking about his best synergies and the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Cannonball is a 5-cost, 8-powered card with the on-reveal ability to move the highest power enemy card here away to a different location that has space. If you can't, destroy that card and replace it with a rock. Okay, so just to add some clarification, he's only going to be looking at cards that have already revealed, so he's not going to look at any cards that are face down or unrevealed. He'll try to move away the highest powered card. If there is a tie, he'll just select one randomly. And if there is space in other locations for that card to go, that card will just move, okay? Kind of like how Stegron just hits a card away. It'll just be hit away, nothing else will happen. But if that card cannot move for whatever reason, maybe the other locations are both full, or they're locked down, or the card is like Blob, who has the ongoing ability that he can't be moved, Cannonball will destroy that card. He'll just blow it up, and he will put a rock where that card was. Okay, the rock will take that card's place, and of course rocks have 0 power. Now, he's going into Series 5, as are all the cards coming out this month, and were all the cards that came out last month. I cry. But he's going to be in spotlights with Miss Marvel and Kitty Pryde, and these are the variants that he should be in spotlights with. We had the whole Miss Marvel snafu last week with that other Miss Marvel variant if people didn't update their game. But he's going to be in with Miss Marvel, Kitty Pryde. Kitty's Series 4, she's kind of okay. Miss Marvel is a Series 5 card, so that's decent value there, and she's still really strong. So it's an okay spotlight cache, not too bad. Let's get into the main synergies for Cannonball to start talking about him more. Alright, so first up, we are looking at Professor X. So with Cannonball, we want to destroy something, hopefully, right? Like, yeah, moving something away is nice, but we really want to destroy stuff. I mean, that would be even better. So if we lock down a lane with Professor X, and let's say your opponent's second lane is full, then when Cannonball goes to hit a card in that third lane, it's just going to kill it, okay? So lockdown is going to help Cannonball kill things more often than just push them away. Next up, we've got a card like Debris, okay? Instead of lockdown, you can just fill your opponent's board. If you fill their lanes for them, then their cards have nowhere to move. And lastly, you could actually focus on the move aspect of Cannonball with a card like Kraven or Kingpin, okay? You can plan to have him just move things away if your opponent has room and he can't kill something, and power up your Kraven. Give it minus power if you have Kingpin down, and again, you always know you're hitting the biggest power card on your enemy side of the board. But if there are 2 lanes that your opponent has space, you don't know where Cannonball is going to move the card. Okay, so if you're hitting away a card on the left lane, but the middle lane and right lane both have space, it is just random, kind of like how Stegron and Juggernaut just hit things to some other location. To talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly for Cannonball, we will start off with the good. First of all, he's got a decent stat line, okay? Legion was released as a 5/8, Cannonball's a 5/8. Like, that is solid power on the board. It's not insane value, but as a floor, okay, like him at his worst, if his ability isn't helping you much, he's still adding 8 power, and that is respectable, okay? It's not great, it's respectable. He will usually win the location you play him at. So whether he kills the card or he pushes it away, you're adding 8 power and you're moving away your opponent's biggest power card. You almost certainly win his lane. And it's a bit similar to how like Alioth or Shang-Chi really focus on one lane. And it's similar if he kills something too. I mean, if your opponent has a full board, you slap down Cannonball, he kills their biggest power thing. He could be killing a Magneto. He could be killing a Blob. He will always kill Blob. He could just be killing, a Scar, a Mockingbird, Cold Obsidian, just something really big, kind of like Shang-Chi, which can be pretty strong. And he's really one of few targeted removal cards. And by that, I mean it's not random, like Gambit, where he just kills something that your opponent has. Now to talk about the bad, and I unfortunately think there's a good amount of bad for Cannonball. First up is if he's not killing a card, if he does push it away because your opponent has board space on a different location, you might go from winning to losing that other location. And on turn 6, I'm thinking Cannonball might be better than on turn 5, especially if your opponent has priority. You're coming in last, again, kind of like Shang-Chi, and they've got a full board. They're more likely to have other two locations full on turn 6 than they are on turn 5, so he's more likely to kill something on turn 6. But in that case, you could just be running Shang-Chi, right? I mean, Shang-Chi costs 4. If you have Zabu down, Shang-Chi costs 3, so you can play him alongside another 3 or 4 cost card that adds decent power or does something else in a different location. Cannonball is just helping you out with one location. Even if he kills something, he's killing one thing. Shang-Chi can hit multiple things, so I don't think Cannonball has as high of a ceiling as Shang-Chi. And then lastly, he doesn't really have obvious synergy. Okay, again, he can move something to power up Craven or hit it with Kingpin, but he's expensive. Move decks and the Silky Smooth, the deck that uses Craven, you don't want a 5-cost card. If you did, you would probably be using Arrow, but it's just a really expensive card to try and fit with that cheap kind of combo package. And adding a rock there if you kill something, so what? I mean, really, so what if you add a rock there? Your opponent had a card there, and now there's a rock. You destroyed it, and they got a rock. So you're not actually adding any cards to their side of the board. And there's just not much synergy. Again, he's kind of more of a general card, but if he's not worth it on a general sense, if he's not just really strong, he might just not see much play if he doesn't work with any deck, right? If he doesn't really add to any deck. So we're gonna have to take a look at the deck season, but again, I think there's a good amount of bad here for Cannonball, although I do think he has a really interesting ability. Now before we look at those decks, giving you a reminder to please like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe for more videos like this because I cover every single new card release in Marvel Snap on a weekly basis. Now let's get to those decks. First up, we've got this ongoing lockdown list. I love ongoing decks. I love lockdown decks. This deck has it all. Okay, we've got the Professor X Synergy. If we lock down a lane, on turn 6, if we have priority, and we're already winning the Professor X lane, you could look to Alioth, your opponent, or if you don't have priority, you can look to Cannonball, your opponent. So if you're already winning the Professor X lane, that's locked in. That's guaranteed. You just need to win a second lane, and Cannonball helps you do that. Even if your opponent is playing something like with 9 power or 8 power, something that Shang-Chi can't kill, Cannonball is either going to move it away to your third lane that you don't care about because you already got the Professor X one, or he's going to kill it, okay? And so I really like him here as kind of the either or. You're going to either Alioth if you have priority or Cannonball if you don't. So I think he's got a really nice home with Professor X because you know which lane the card he hits away will move to. And then we've just got a nice ongoing package with Ravonna giving a discount to Iron Man, Professor X, and Mystique. You can do Professor X plus Mystique to lock down 2 lanes, meaning Cannonball is guaranteed to kill a card. And you can also just do Iron Man Mystique on turn 6, or you can go with the Alioth like I mentioned, or even Spectrum. So this deck just has a bunch of raw, ongoing power, and I'm definitely excited to try this one out. Next up, I've got Cannonball in a high Evo deck. Okay, we don't have Magic in here. It's not a She-Not list, but we do have Hope Summers, and we are hoping, wink wink, to ramp up a bit and get out our big cards. Okay, we've got Scorpion, who will discount our Abomination. We've got obviously Hope, who you can play Wasp or one of our many 1-drops on top of. And we've got Kyra to protect our 1-drops. Then we just got the Hulk as a big turn 6 option, or Cannonball. Okay, so you can go really big in one lane, especially if you have Cyclops that's just hitting down your opponent's cards there, really giving you a big advantage on that lane. Maybe you've got like Cyclops and Sunspot or Nebula there. You slap down Abomination even, just big on one lane, and then turn 6, you Cannonball a second lane, okay? And Cannonball, again, he's going to be really good at winning his own lane. Whether he helps or hurts your other lanes is a different story, but if you can focus on just one lane and Cannonball the second one on the last turn, you might have some success. And last up, I've put together this ongoing Spectrum Destroyer list with Cannonball. So more ongoing, but this time it's in a bit of a different style. We're not going for lockdown. Instead, we're focusing really hard on one lane. You could play down Armor or Cosmo, and then behind that you just play a bunch of ongoings. You get an Omega Red plus Iron Man. You will win that one lane, okay? Ongoing Spectrum decks, they're built to win 2 lanes hard, okay? Because you build up this one lane, and then you play Destroyer outside of Armor or Destroyer behind Cosmo. And so, again, you just build up one lane really big with like the Armor or Cosmo, Omega Red, Iron Man. You could do Sandman to counter your opponents here if they're playing a lot of things like Thanos decks. And that second lane, you can slap down a Spectrum, you can slap down a Destroyer, or you can just slap down a Cannonball. Okay, especially if you don't have priority, just slap down Cannonball, hit your opponent's big thing away, and secure that second lane. Hopefully their big thing goes to their third lane, and you're not really adding power there. So you're really sacrificing the third lane, and that's what I think Cannonball's good for. These decks that focus really hard on just 2 lanes and don't mind giving up a third fairly early on. So my final ratings for Cannonball, while we look at his pretty sweet Spotlight variant, which is the Pandart Studio variant for him, in terms of being fun, you know, I think he's pretty fun, okay? Moving stuff around the board is kind of fun already. It's a bit better than Stegron because it's controlled, right? It's targeted, you know what you're gonna move. So that's gonna feel a bit better. You're gonna hit something big onto like, I don't know, Rickety Bridge, it would be pretty funny. And it's just gonna be nice, and if he kills something, gets a rock, that's fun also. So the fact that he kind of does different things adds to his fun factor. In terms of being flexible, I talked about earlier, he doesn't really have a ton of synergy. He is a bit of a generalist. You can just put him in different decks, almost like Legion. I don't think he's as good as Legion, but I think he's fairly flexible. Again, you can use him more to like counter what your opponent is doing than to fit the style of your deck. Okay, so I do like his fun factor. I like his flexibility. In terms of being competitive, meh, he's okay. I give him 2 out of 4 stars. I don't think he's horrible. When he was first data mined, he was just moving a random card. I thought he was horrible then. But the fact that he moves something really big, and again, I cannot stress enough how good he will be at winning his own lane. That's a good trait to have, okay? That's very important. It is very good, but he sometimes just moves it to a different lane. He can't kill as many things as Shang-Chi, and he's not as flexible as Shang-Chi because he's more expensive. So I think his floor is okay, you know, as a 5'8" that moves something, that's okay, but Stegron doesn't see play, okay? So if he was just a 5'8" that moved something, it wouldn't see that much play. So his floor, it's all right, but it's not spectacular. His ceiling is good, but it's not amazing. And so really his power range, he's either gonna be meh or he's gonna be good when he works. Okay, he's not always gonna be solid and then amazing when he works. He's meh to good is how I envision him. So my overall thoughts is that Cannonball is not worth chasing after. 6,000 tokens, that's a lot. The spotlights this week, if you need Miss Marvel, then maybe. I know a lot of people got her last week by not updating the game. Kitty Pryde also isn't worth chasing after. So it's an okay spotlight week. It's not horrible, but it's not great. And Cannonball, I think it's going to be fun and interesting. I think he's easily one of the weakest cards coming out this month. Okay, either he's the weakest or he's like right in front of Pixie. But he's just not super strong, I don't believe. I would wait a couple days to see how he performs before committing your resources to him. So let me know your thoughts on Cannonball, what combos you're excited to try out with him, if you think he's going to be good at killing stuff or if he's often just going to move it, push it to another lane where your opponent might just win that lane now because you moved it with Cannonball. So let me know your thoughts on him, and until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.